And now, it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Happy New Year's Eve. Yes, we're playing a little Elvis, singing about Las Vegas, as the Las Vegas Bowl is about 3.5 hours from now. We will be talking about it throughout the show. We'll let you hear a little bit from Morgan Scalley coming up in his press conference yesterday. Hasn't really had a big presser since he was named head coach at Utah. This is his opportunity to talk a little bit about that, though he did really want to focus on the bowl game, but we will let you hear that. Evan Bland's going to join us coming up at 11:05. He covers Nebraska football for the Omaha World Herald. What should Utah fans expect? My guess is not a very good Nebraska team, but probably more dangerous than some Utah fans realize. And Utah's been willing to give up as many yards as the opposing team wants in recent games, so we'll see how that looks.
It does strike me that this is more about Utah than Nebraska, because I would have never guessed that Utah would give up 700-plus yards. I think it's 762 yards in the last two games on the ground. Like, something is wrong. That's just on Kansas and Kansas State. I don't believe that. What is wrong?
That voice, if you haven't been in Salt Lake City for the last 25 years, is David James.
Hi.
Hi, DJ. Thanks for hanging out the first segment.
I'm doing a lot of radio lately. I don't know if you noticed.
I really appreciate you.
I filled in for Jake on the Jazz pre-half and post last night.
Did you do
They
it?
had to walk me through it. I didn't know what I was doing. So I'm doing radio in the morning, I'm doing radio at night, and I'm sticking around on your show. I'm the guest who wouldn't leave in that Saturday Night Live skit, which actually is my rep, so what the heck.
You and Coach Lacombe last night?
Yes, but then Coach Lacombe whiffed and stood us up this morning. I don't know what's going on with that. You overslept? What's his deal?
Yeah, not cool. Not cool at all.
Well, I'll ask him about it tomorroh night.
Oh, you're doing the other game.
When we spend New Year's night together.
It's a late one, too.
8:30 game, Jazz and the Clippers up against the fourth quarterfinal playoff game.
In the
at least the second half of it.
Clippers suddenly playing very well. 5
in a row. Kawhi's playing well, and the Clippers are playing well.
They're going to overtake
so
the Jazz
it turns
pretty
out you're as good as your best player? Yeah. Why didn't someone tell me this?
He had 55 the other night. He looks very good again.
He does.
They will overtake the Jazz. And
yes, and I think a few other teams will. I can see where the Jazz continue on 25, possibly 30-win course somewhere in there, and I could see them with the 6th or 7th worst record in the NBA.
9 of the next 11 on the road for the Jazz, and they're all pretty tough games. And then mixed in there is a couple of these 2-for-1 games against Charlotte and against Dallas, where if you lose and they win – and you're focused on lottery balls, it does twice the work.
Is that the game where someone's going to have a groin injury or someone needs to be rested? Don't sit somebody for all of the games, but when you're playing somebody you're battling and it's double the reward for losing.
Yep. I was surprised that Keontae played last night. But then again, I saw him in practice.
Will you be surprised if Lauri Markkanen plays against the Clippers? That was legitimately a hard fall he took on the shoulder, elbow, hip.
And I saw him after the game, and his elbow was pretty bloody. But he seemed to be moving okay. But you're right. He
didn't score it well in the second half, and I don't want to blame it all on that. I think that, the focus in the locker room at halftime is you got 3 guys going off. You guys want to slow down one of them?
Yeah.
Because Nurkic was lighting it up. 26 points.
Yeah, he was awesome.
10 of 11 shooting.
Man, he had a fabulous postgame. Did you guys get to play any of his postgame last night?
Yes, we played a lot of it.
I thought it was fabulous.
Yeah.
He talked about just how much he loves Salt Lake City and the coaching and how hard last year was. He kind of became the villain in Phoenix, and they had to use a first-round draft pick to send him to Charlotte, and he basically never played in Charlotte. And they gave up on him pretty quickly, and everyone wondered why the Jazz traded a good player in Colin Sexton for Yusuf Nurkic, and he showed you. I mean, Nurkic's been very good for the Jazz. He's been instrumental in what little success they have had, but he has been instrumental in it. And just talked about how much it meant that Will Hardy has believed in him and how much support they've given him.
Okay,
it was really charming.
Now I'm just a cold-blooded sportscaster. So is he playing well enough they can trade him and get something for him?
Oh, that's the Danny Ainge uniform you just put on, yeah.
26 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. And what Austin said this summer is true. The contracts have become as important as the talent, except in the situations where they're more important than the talent, and it's slowed down the Jazz rebuild. I thought they'd be back in the playoffs by now, in year 4. I didn't think it was going to take that long. I'd seen Ainge with 1- and 2-year rebuilds early in his career, but they haven't been able to flip veteran players the way I expected. And when they finally have moved them, they haven't gotten the value I expected.
Centers are hard to move because there's generally pretty decent centers around the NBA. I mean, even Nurkic playing as well as he did last night. And we are going to talk Utah, Nebraska football. Don't worry. Even as well as he has played this year, he's still probably the 25th best starting center in the NBA.
But I'm waiting for somebody to have an injury who has a good team, and they don't necessarily need him. Now, how much they want to give up, again, the contract gets in the way. And so I'm sitting here playing fantasy basketball in my head, and it just doesn't work if you're actually trying to follow the CBA.
And I want to look at NBA teams that are over the salary cap right now that may be willing to take back lesser contracts, send out more, save some money. The Jazz may not need to get any capital back with it. They may not need to get any draft capital back. The draft capital they get by trading Nurkic is holding on to their own pick. Because Nurkic makes you better. And if you move him, you get worse. And that makes it easier to keep your lottery pick.
You know, his career started in Denver, and I heard they had just lost a guy for a month.
They did. I really don't know if they have the money.
If not longer.
Yeah. Over the salary cap. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Jokic. That's certainly not ideal. But at least it wasn't a torn up knee. But yeah, we'll see. Some teams that could look to shed some money. Nurkic could be a possibility.
The thing about Denver is that I think there's some real financial stuff there. And also, I don't think Denver cares what they're seeded as long as he's healthy for the playoffs. They don't need to make a move. It just doesn't, the next month doesn't matter to them.
Cleveland, Minnesota, Golden State, Dallas, LA, the Lakers, I should say, the Kings, the Knicks all have a huge salary cap.
Yeah.
Pretty enormous numbers. Phoenix as well, but Phoenix obviously wouldn't welcome him back. There's just not that many spots for him to land.
We'll see if something opens up. See if something happens.
You don't have to play him. The truth is, you don't have to play him. You don't play Kyle Anderson right now. You're playing him right now because he's the best option at starting center. If you decide you don't want to do that and you want to start Flip and you never want to play Nurk, you can do that.
Time will tell.
The NBA allows you to do that. And Kevin Love should be traded. He's been much better than I expected. Can't jump anymore, but he can still shoot and rebound. He's a really terrific person to have in the locker room. Sometimes we overrate that. I don't think we're overrating that with Kevin Love. Space is the floor. He can shoot it. Yep, he can. All right, let's talk about football. What today's game is about, in David James's opinion.
Morgan Scalley's first game.
Yeah.
I am curious with a team that might be about to go in a lot of different directions, how hard they will play and how good a performance they will put together. What they have shown beating Kansas State and Kansas is that even when they are not playing at an optimal level, they still find a way to win. They could have lost either one of those games, and they didn't lose either one of those games. Morgan, I think you want to see him make the first impression that's real positive, especially when it comes to game management stuff that he hasn't been in charge of. You know, don't misuse the timeouts. Don't do bizarre stuff on fourth down. Don't miss obvious game management situations. You know,
I'd like to see the defense play well, which has not been the case for a few weeks.
What happened the last two games?
We just have not seen that. And I wonder if that was Morgan looking around, wondering what his future is going to be. Did he start to get the sense that Witt wasn't going to be here and he lost a little bit of focus on what his job was? Did Utah not feel like they were realistically in the running for the...
But the offense played well. I threw that out because I think that's something. PK's like, but the offense felt they were in the running because they kept performing at a high level.
They got better. They got better and better. I mean, we saw maybe Devin Dampier and Bird Ficklen's best performances of the season.
81 points. I mean, they averaged 40.5 points in those games. They averaged 41 points for the season, so it kind of felt like they were who they were.
But their fourth quarters were fabulous, I think, in both of those games.
They were great. They were great. They were great in winning time.
So,
yes.
That was something
they could have lost either game. They could have lost either game.
It looked like they
sitting
were
there watching the
games.
second half of those games thinking, these guys are in trouble. They better get it going. And they got it going, and they won both games.
So that's what I would like to see.
A good first half?
No. A good defensive performance.
Okay.
Christian, give me some understanding of where Nebraska is. Did you have their offense pulled up as well, or just their defense?
Defensively, they're 312 yards per game. That's good for 23rd in the country. So pretty solid defense.
Do you have their rushing defense at all?
Not quite.
Okay. When you get those numbers, let me know. I don't think they're particularly great against the run, which I do think means Utah's going to be able to run the ball. And I will be curious, as much as we've talked about Morgan Scalley maybe being different than Kyle Whittingham, how much is he willing to be different than Kyle Whittingham? Does he want to be a guy who thinks they need to score 40 points a game? And is he comfortable giving up 35 points or 30 points to get a victory? I mean, they have been doing that this year, but he hasn't been the man.
I can answer that.
Decisions.
No. I was on the field in the end zone where they walk into the locker room, and he walked by and shook my hand after the last home game and just shook his head like, that was a hot mess. I can't. I feel like I've been beat. And he said all of this with a look. None of it. No, he did not utter a word.
This was Kansas State.
This after the Kansas State game, and it's just like I feel like I've been in the round in a heavyweight title fight, and I've been punched for 45 minutes. And I mean, we won, but this is more relief than joy by a large stretch. Yeah. Holy cow! I'm horrified that they just scored 47 points and ran for 10,000 yards on us. Yeah. No, he's not comfortable at all. I think he wants to see them hold somebody under 100 yards rushing and shut him out, and then he'll feel better about himself.
They did only allow 21 points to Kansas, but again, they needed 21 of their own points in the fourth quarter to come back and win that game, and it certainly looked like Kansas was in charge and was going to win that one, not comfortably, but certainly had a lead. That's better. 21 points is acceptable. You can live with that.
The 290 yards rushing is not acceptable.
Certainly not, and I think that's one number I will be keeping an eye on because, I think that's what is going to have to be Utah's identity going forward under Morgan Scalley. It just is going to continue to have to be defense first. And I don't think that means you have to do what Witt does. There are a lot of good defensive teams in college football that don't have teams that look like Kyle Whittingham, but I don't know if you can have a true offensive juggernaut and a defensive juggernaut at Utah. I don't know if you just recruit the overall talent level to be able to have both. So I do think you have to have an offense that continues to support what your goals are defensively, and I'm curious how Morgan does that coming from the defensive side of the ball.
You could throw the ball efficiently, and I think they have. I think that the quarterback passing game thing has stuck with the Utes because for the first 5, 6, 7 years in the Pac-12, it was just such a problem. Mm-hmm. And it kind of stuck with them. But really, when you look what they did with Huntley and you look what they did with Rising, and then you look what happened this year with Dampier. Okay, Huntley's still in the NFL. We'll never know about Rising. There have been too many injuries. Yeah. I don't think he was an NFL guy, but maybe he was an NFL backup. Maybe he was. Dampier's too small.
Right.
His time hasn't come, but he's just too small. But if you look at the way they scored and the way they moved the ball and the way they won, it just wasn't the perception didn't match the reality. The reality is they were not an A passing game, but they were at least a B or B plus offense, and the passing game was at least C plus or B minus. It wasn't. I mean, there was a time when the passing game was in C minus D plus D territory. Yeah, there were games where it was an F. Just flat out, the passing game failed. But those, I think you got to go way back. I think that wasn't the Huntley era, and it wasn't the Rising
Wilson,
era.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and early Travis Wilson.
And I don't know if it's a fault of Travis Wilson's as much as it may be a fault of Witt. And I guess that leads to the next question is, did they then solve something? Did Utah figure something out of what they need from their quarterbacks that Morgan Scalley can carry on? Or are you just jumping vine to vine every quarterback, hoping that you have a guy who can do it and you don't know until he's on the field?
There's a little bit that is the nature of the job. And you can get caught short. And I think people really feel like they're jumping vine to vine now because you can't have it, and you can't. It is so difficult to have 2 or 3 good quarterbacks because they transfer and find a spot.
Yeah.
So I think that even the best programs, if the coaches are really honest, are like, I hope this works out. This is like there is not much margin for error. And I think that's why we see quote-unquote power programs that are so far down. There isn't much margin for error.
Yeah, there's not.
And stuff does go wrong, and injuries do happen, and you don't have depth because the guy transferred. The guy who really wanted to play for you just didn't. That's it. He wanted to play for you. He didn't want to stand on the sideline for you. So those are all problems. I think what happened early on is that they had to play freshmen who weren't ready. At the same time, they had some inexperienced offensive coordinators. And they had injuries getting in the way some years, and it's just that's a toxic mess. What you see later is guys not playing as freshmen. Mm-hmm. You see guys playing who've been in the program. Rising was in the program. He had a red shirt when he transferred, and then he had that 2020 season where he got hurt in the first game. It was a bizarro season and not real. But just think how many practices, how many meetings, how many mental reps do you get, even if you don't get the physical reps? He's just in a different situation. And Huntley got to sit for a year and got to go 7-6 as a sophomore before he took off his junior and senior years.
I did feel like Witt used to get excited about star ratings, about recruiting rankings.
It felt like they were breaking through a quarterback with a 4-star guy. And then, one guy's gone before Halloween. He didn't even give it a chance.
Yeah, what was the quarterback camp that everyone went to?
Elite 11.
The Elite 11. I remember Witt being excited about finally getting Travis Wilson, an Elite 11 quarterback, and what that meant and why they thought that believed something. And I think he wanted to believe that meant something more than what it actually translated to on the field. And I think he bought into that for a while. And I do think he abandoned that for the better of the program.
Yes.
And they found out how to, utilize Tyler Huntley, who was not a huge recruit. Was a good recruit, but was not a huge recruit.
That all happened at the time that they were under intense pressure to up the talent of the program. He had to coach for his job. That's why we have Yuck has the drop in there when they're 6-1 and they beat USC. Two words, bowl eligible, because they'd gone 5-7 2 years in a row. His assistants hadn't gotten extensions. It was clear his neck was on the line. His job, his tenure at Utah was hanging in the balance. And so you have to upgrade the talent. He's been a great talent evaluator, but they had some really good players. Mm-hmm. The 08 team really outkicked the Mountain West. They really hit on a bunch of diamonds in the rough. They had a half dozen NFL guys on that defense. Mm-hmm. That's not what they had at 11 and 12. They didn't have that every year. It's why they only had the one unbeaten year. So they didn't have nearly enough talent in 11, 12, and 13. So hold on to the star system because you're coaching for your job and you've got to upgrade the talent and you got to do it fast and you don't have time to miss. You don't really even have time to develop. You got to win now. He was feeling all of that when that went sideways.
Witt is probably less stuck in his ways than people think. He's a little more malleable than people think. He has evolved a lot.
100%, I agree.
You can't go from the Mountain West Conference to the Pac-12 to the Big 12 and have success at all three stops without being very malleable.
While the transfer rule changes, while NIL changes, there was a time when if you went in the portal, you were dead to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were dead to him.
Yeah.
2 years later, we welcomed him back. We understand his situation.
Yeah.
Why? Whoa, the game is changing.
He had to.
If I draw this line in the sand, I'm not going to have enough good players to win. I got to rethink what I'm doing. That was one of the biggest Winningham adjustments. And I have texted with people who've recruited with him about that very thing. And I got back, evolve or die.
Yeah, and good for Witt for doing it.
Evolve or die, man.
I also think at times he was a little bit knee-jerk reaction-y, and I don't know if that benefited him. I think he would see what was going on around him and say, and the easy example of this, which is funny because it did end up benefiting him, so maybe I'm wrong. But
as you argue with yourself.
He really liked, he had a fetish for going out and getting dual-threat quarterbacks because he struggled to slow them down early in his career, right? He could not stop them. So he wanted to go out and get the Tyler Huntleys of the world and those guys who could run.
I would say it's largely worked.
That's just where college football is everywhere now. So I don't know if that's Witt leading the charge so much as every quarterback just has to be mobile, and Witt was a part of that. But I do think the Elite 11 thing was a little bit reactionary. He saw other teams have success with those kids, and he thought, well, I've got to do it that same way. And I don't know if that actually helped him. And I'm curious if Morgan Scalley picks up some of those things or avoids some of those things, which are, A, some can be positive if you're willing to evolve, B, some can be a negative if you're just reflecting what the Joneses are doing.
I think that college football evolved and everybody realized it. The people who didn't realize it lost and lost their jobs. And that's Witt realized it, but I think a lot of people realized it. That's why college football's gone where it's gone. I think Kyle would say, well, we got a dual threat quarterback in Tyler Huntley. And his junior and senior years, we had double-digit win seasons, and we were in the conference title game. And he's still in the NFL today, winning games for a team that might end up in the playoffs. He might play Sunday night. It's not clear that it'll be Lamar Jackson. And this game only matters because they won a big road game. Now, they did just lean on their superstar, future Hall of Fame running back, as they should have. But Huntley was efficient when he did throw, and he did run the ball well in that game for the Ravens.
And the Steelers let him off the hook. Steelers lost to the Browns.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But they did what they had to do on Saturday, and then they got the good fortune they needed on Sunday. And then he went to Cam Rising, who could run. I mean, I'll give you signature plays in Cam Rising's career. He's running into the end zone against USC in the 43-42 game. He's running and blowing up his knee against Penn State in the Rose Bowl. He's running on 4th and 1 for a spectacular touchdown against Ohio State. He's running and getting his helmet knocked off and then getting up and swinging his hair around and smiling in USC. Yeah. I mean, that's 4 signature running plays with Cam Rising. And he had some signature throws too. But dual threat quarterback, and obviously Dan Pierce, another dual threat quarterback. So I think Kyle would tell you, yeah, we went to that, and when we got it right, look at the three guys who won a lot for us. I mean, they all produced double-digit win seasons and nationally ranked teams.
Utah going to beat Nebraska today?
I believe they are, unless there's some psychological, emotional stuff inside the locker room that I don't know about because they're in Vegas for a week and I'm up here, and that's the only way they lose. I don't see how they lose on talent or scheme or coaching. I mean, if you come out super flat and you turn the ball over 3 or 4 times, you can lose to anybody.
Nebraska.
They're the better team. Nebraska's 7-5, squeaking past Cincinnati in the opener on a neutral field in Kansas City. The Utes are 10-2, annihilating Cincinnati at home. It's not perfect with the comparative scores. It was a season opener, and the season openers are notoriously a little shaky for everybody, even really good teams.
Both teams are without their 2 best players. Utah's without their 2 first-round draft picks at tackle.
Yeah, they're missing a quarterback
but
and a running back.
But they're missing their quarterback and their running back,
right,
which, with all due respect to first-round draft picks at tackle, losing your 2 main yard getters in your quarterback and running back is a much bigger loss. I was just making a big deal
out of TCU losing a quarterback and winning a game, so I'm not going to argue with you.
You lose those guys, and that's your entire identity. Yes. They've been without Raiola for a little while.
They have. Basically, the month that he went down their first November game. And so he missed the end of that USC game where he got hurt, and then he missed the next 3 games.
And I kind of like this Latif kid, their backup quarterback. He's kind of fun to watch. He's a good dual-threat player.
So do you feel like we're watching the last game of this season or the first game of next season?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if we're watching anything about next season for Utah, and that's maybe the wild card. We don't know if either of these quarterbacks is going to be back for Utah.
Yep. I think one will because there's a starting job and they know Morgan.
I would think so, and that's
I don't think they'll lose both guys.
As we talked about, and I talked with Steve Bartle about this, if Devin Dampier wants to leave because his offensive coordinator's not here anymore and it makes sense to hit the transfer portal and just get as much money as you can, and Bird Ficklin was already comfortable coming in to be a backup at Utah, why not go be a backup at Michigan? The difference being just start at Utah.
Because he could start at Utah.
You could just start
That's
here.
a reason not to go be a backup at Michigan.
And that's a really high value.
Yes.
And I don't know if he had.
And his compensation would probably change. I think you compensate a backup. And Michigan's got a lot of money, but nonetheless.
Yeah, I agree.
The chance to play every snap and be the guy.
And it's not like this is Bryce Underwood's last year. He's got at least 2 more years
Well, he's got at least 1 more year. I mean, he could go to the NFL after 3. But
right.
they're the same. The point is, they're the same class.
But this is his freshman season, right?
Yes.
So he's got 2 more seasons.
They are the same class.
Right. So
there's.
I think you're right. I think there's probably a good chance that at least one of these 2 is back. And that's a benefit for Utah.
I don't blame Dampier if he leaves. People get to change their minds.
Absolutely.
Since the indications he gave earlier, things have changed around him that he doesn't control. So if he goes, I get it.
Yeah. And so I'm curious.
It's a new world order.
I'm curious today who gets the majority of the reps. I think certainly Dampier starts, and that makes sense. But I won't be surprised if we see a lot of Bird Ficklin.
And I think gadget formations, I think both of them on the field. I want to see them both lined up, wide receiver on the left side, run the fly sweep, and have the quote-unquote halfback option pass. I mean, they're not halfback to be a wide receiver option pass. Yeah, I'm up for – you've had a month. Trick it up.
Yeah, and everything.
Have some fun. This is entertainment.
Everything you practice throughout the season that you didn't use, throw it out there.
Yeah, you want them both on the field.
Your coordinator's gone next year. It's not like you're saving these for next season.
Let's go.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm excited for this game. It's a good one for Morgan Scalley. Nebraska in your first game was fun. And he was talking about the Las Vegas Bowl. We'll let you hear about that coming up in about 20 minutes at his press conference. And this is his 6th that he's been a part of. He's been a part of some really different games. Coached in 4, beat USC in his first game. Yeah. The USC, that was Pete Carroll's first year when they were a 6-6 team, just all on the verge. The next year they started breaking out. And then by year 3 of Pete Carroll, it was on. It was really on year 2. Unsurprisingly, Morgan seems geeked about this. Unsurprisingly, he seems very excited about what's going on. He was there. They went there and got destroyed. I think Boise State handled him 1 year there. He was there for that crazy game when Bronco and his staff were gone. Speaking of teams that came out emotionally flat, Bizarro, and the game started 35-0. And it was basically touchdown, turnover, touchdown, turnover, touchdown, turnover. I mean, it was a comment. I was literally laughing in front of the TV. Like, this is like slapstick. I feel like I'm watching the Keystone Cops here. And then BYU got their legs under it and ends up 35-28. And Kyle's post game is, this is ridiculous. And I'm like, what did I just watch for 3 hours? What just happened? Well, and Utah hadn't wanted to play that game. They'd wanted to avoid playing BYU. But the stadium was packed. Yeah, it's great. It was a great atmosphere.
Bowl games need fewer conference tie-ins, and they need more games that are orchestrated for maximum entertainment value. If USC and Notre Dame aren't going to play in the regular season for 2 years, if they're not in the playoffs, they need to play in a bowl game. Yeah. Are you know, what? I can't believe the thing that gets me, and it keeps happening, so this shows you that TV doesn't have as much power as everybody thinks it does. Mm-hmm. I know people are scoffing when I say that. Oh, sure, TV boy. But if TV had as much power as you think it does, Texas and Texas A&M would have played in bowl games.
Yeah.
Missouri and Kansas would play in bowl games. Pitt and Penn State would play in bowl games. Now USC and Notre Dame would play in bowl games.
Yeah.
BYU and Utah would have played in more bowl games than just one. Right. It didn't happen very often. These conference tie-ins are in the way, and you can't tell me Fox and CBS have a bowl game, but it's mostly ESPN.
Yeah.
That ESPN wouldn't. Miami and Florida don't play every year.
Right.
Well, then play in a bowl game.
Yeah. If they're both are eligible here? And don't make the playoffs, put them together.
Yeah. We got a game on right now. Vandy's playing Iowa and Tampa Bay. Now, it's cold in Iowa. It's not warm in Vandy. They're in Tampa Bay, and the stadium looks half full.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody craves Iowa versus Vanderbilt.
No, I like that they
matchup.
both have little numbers next to their name, meaning they're top 25 teams.
Sure.
But yeah, nobody cares about the history of these two schools.
Right. So these rivals that aren't playing, match them up. Let's go. Okay. I'm even up for Big Ten and SEC schools that miss each other in the regular season. Have them play. I thought the BYU Colorado thing last year. Great. Have them play. Yeah. I want to see that.
Yeah, it's fine if it's the same conference. That's
right.
Fine.
They haven't played this year. They're both good teams. Let's go.
Conferences also don't want to do it because, I heard your last segment talking to Hatch, and, SEC loses the SEC. It looks bad for the SEC. Well, you won a bowl game. No, you lost a bowl game. Nobody likes that either. Iowa, by the way, up 7-0 on Vandy, about to punch it in for 14-0.
Should we be putting a little more? Let's put some respect on Vanderbilt's name. They were terrible in football forever. Ed Orgeron said the quiet part out loud. Bless Ed Orgeron for saying the truth. We've been paying players for years. We just used to go through the back door, and now we're going through the front door. That is arguably the best quote of 2025, and I only hedge because I can't recall every quote of 2025 right now. But that is an elite quote.
There were teams that were waiting to break out as soon as they could spend the money. Vandy's clearly one of them.
Vandy took a beating for years. They had to know why they were losing all those SEC games, and they just wouldn't break the rules. They had their principles, they had their standards, and they weren't going to violate it to beat Alabama or beat Tennessee or whatever. And as soon as it was okay, Vandy's playing with the big boys.
Sounds a lot like BYU to me. Sounds a lot like BYU. We didn't want to break the rules.
BYU didn't take the beatings for the last 4 years.
No, they didn't. They've been respectable.
Yes, they've been, and sometimes more than respectable. Vandy didn't have a 14-1 Cotton Bowl team mixed in there.
No, there were some sleeping giants that I was not aware of. Vandy's one of them. Texas Tech is clearly one of them. And that's maybe not so much a sleeping giant so much as right place at the right time where this billion-dollar donor is now graduated.
Yes.
That's been great for them.
Right.
Same thing for BYU. Now, there's always been money around BYU, but never with this tech boom like we have right now.
Well, we've seen money pay off. Money took Oregon from the outhouse to the penthouse, and money took Oklahoma State from the outhouse to the penthouse, and now money's doing it at Texas Tech. I see Texas Tech as more the Oregon and Oklahoma State story.
What's the Nashville money from? Do you know? The Vandy money.
I think Vandy, is an elite academic school in the way that Duke is, and the way that, not to the degree Stanford is. Stanford's are really off the charts, but Northwestern.
But Stanford doesn't care about football. That's the funny thing. They've got the money, and they don't care.
Vandy cares, and they're willing to spend it. And I think that as an elite private school, they've got a lot of people who've made a lot of money. And I think that's what they've got. I think they've got elite entrepreneurs. Okay. I don't know. I haven't dove into. That's just my assumption. Is that's a super smart school. It's like Rice. Is Rice going to break out now?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Arkansas school has a ton of money. Has a ton of donors. It's got Walmart money, and they've got lots of money in their back pocket. I'll be curious if they break through.
They had a taste of it. They were in some SEC title games early on, and then it's been 20 years of struggles mostly.
Yeah.
A few isolated okay seasons.
DJ, thanks for hanging out.
Good to be here.
Top 3 stories of KSL Sports. Coming up next, Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the Top 3 Stories of the Day on KSLSports.com. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Quick update on the ReliaQuest Bowl. Thought Iowa was going to punch it in. Next play, they threw an interception in the end zone. So Vandy got the ball back, but I think Iowa's already got it back now. So back in the red zone. Anyways, it is bowl season. No, they're not in the red zone. They're backed up on their own 30. It is bowl season. We're obviously going to get you ready for Utah and Nebraska coming up today, 1:30. You're going to be able to hear that game right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Evan Bland's going to join us coming up at 11:05, giving us a breakdown on what to expect from the Nebraska side of things. He covers the Cornhuskers for the Omaha World Herald. But right now it is time for the top 3 stories at KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. 2 locations up and down the Wasatch Front. You can go find them online, jbrooksjewelers.com. Cherish your loved ones with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. Christian, where are we starting today?
Well, Ben, that is the big story. Morgan Scalley making his coaching debut today. Jason Beck still has not been announced as Michigan's offensive coordinator, so there's a lot of smoke there. Also, interestingly enough, as you mentioned earlier in the show, we'll be playing Morgan Scalley's media availability. He was not supposed to talk officially as Utah's head coach until January 6th, but with Kyle Whittingham stepping down, somebody had to be Utah's head coach yesterday.
Yeah, you do have to talk. You do have to meet some media requirements for these bowl games. There's so much money spent on them and dished out, so they need to have some pre-game festivities, and Morgan talked about that. And he was excited. I talked about it with DJ a little bit in the last segment. Morgan's geeked about this opportunity, and rightfully so. Morgan's always been a huge ball of energy. Morgan has never failed to bring it. If you've ever covered a Utah practice or you've heard him talk in general, he's loud. You hear Morgan. You know where Morgan is regardless of where you're standing. You can always find Morgan pretty quickly. He's always yelling, and not yelling in a bad way, but juicing guys up. I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see some energy on the sideline from Utah that you haven't seen from Kyle Whittingham in a while, and I think it's going to get Utah fans excited about what this product is going to look like. Now, ultimately, it's going to come down to wins and losses, but I do think some of that exuberance, youthfulness, excitement is going to be a positive for the program that Kalani really has, that Whit never really had. Whit was always pretty stoic. Whit was never quite the youngest guy, and I know earlier in his career he was certainly, I don't want to say more agile, but maybe more animated. Morgan's extraordinarily animated, so I think you're going to see a lot of that, and I think the players will respond in kind, and I think that will make some players want to play for Morgan. But again, it's going to come down to, can you practice what you preach? Can the team win on the field? And Morgan's always had very good defenses, minus these last 2 games that we've seen against Kansas State and Kansas. Can he get Utah back to that spot today to give him some momentum leading into next year?
Yeah, and how much are other players distracted, I guess, is the big thing. And you mentioned Devin Dampier and what's his plans looking like with the portal opening on Friday. Could his mind have changed on whether he wants to stay or go? And then so many other players. John Henry Daly already entered his name in the transfer portal. He wasn't going to play, obviously. But with these coaching changes and Utah having to replace so many, not just coordinators, but assistants as well, you don't really know if this, like you said, is this kind of the last game of this season or the first game of next season.
And you know what? I do think that is probably just the nature of the game, more so than just necessarily specific to what's happening at Utah. Now, what is happening at Utah with a new head coach? You're going to have 2 new coordinators, though maybe they just get promoted from in-house. Certainly on the defensive side of the ball, it looks like Cole Swan has a real chance to be the guy. These kids are auditioning for their jobs, and that does bring a type of motivation that they want to sit out there and play. They want to get out there and get on the field and prove that they're worthy of a job and worthy of NIL money next season to be retained and brought back and have an opportunity to play and start next year. So I think some of those jobs are being fought for. And across, even in Nebraska right now, they're without their starting quarterback, they're without their star running back who's going to the NFL. There are guys there that are auditioning for jobs right now. So I think that does provide a type of motivation that is universal in bowl games across the board. And the fact that Utah had so few opt-outs is part of it, because this is an older group. These are a lot of kids playing their last games. They're not transferring. Yeah, they're not going to be at Utah next year, but they're not playing anywhere other than maybe the NFL. So a lot of these guys are going to want to come out and I think play well just because it's their last opportunity. It's a very familiar bowl game. Probably a lot of families around in Vegas as well to see them. So I think that can be a benefit for Utah. Certainly much easier to travel from Salt Lake to Vegas than it is from Nebraska. So I think it's going to be a fun game. I think there's going to be a lot of energy around the Utah program, and that's something Morgan I hope is able to keep up. I hope he's able to keep up kind of the positive momentum and energy that he naturally brings, and doesn't get weighed down by the, wow, can you believe what happened with Kyle Whittingham? Wow, can you believe that you also lost Jason Beck when you weren't supposed to? I would hope that this is the beginning, if I'm a Utah fan, of positive momentum throughout the summer, or I should say the winter, into spring, into the summer, and then into next season because it's going to look a lot different. He's got his work cut out for him, but having the right attitude will really benefit him.
Yeah, it's a tough ask, but Morgan Scalley seems to be the guy for the job. I mean, that's why they picked him, right?
Number 2.
Jazz lose last night to Boston, 129-119. Yusuf Nurkic almost had a triple-double. How about that?
He always almost has a triple-double. It feels like he has a lot of 7 assists, 9 rebound games. He doesn't have a lot of, 26 last night? That's his season high for the Jazz. In fact, he'd never broken 20. We talked about this a little bit, kind of my theory, and it wasn't proven true last night, so it's not foolproof. But generally, if Yusuf Nurkic is the best center on the floor, it seems like the Jazz have a chance to win some of these games. And Neemias Queta has turned into a very good NBA player, like not a great player, but he's a legit NBA rotation player. He's going to make a lot of money in the league, and good for him coming from Utah State. But he's clearly not in the same caliber of player right now of Yusuf Nurkic. Nurkic, 26 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 10 of 11 from the floor. He's now 8 of 11 from 3 over his last 6 appearances. He played well. And then the story continues to be Keontae George, who had 37 points, 7 rebounds, or 7 assists, 6 rebounds, shooting the heck out of the ball, 13 of 24 from the floor, 6 of 12 from 3, 5 of 6 from the free throw line. Lauri Markkanen is the Jazz's most unique player at 7 feet tall. I'm curious if he's the team's most important player. And look, there are high-scoring guards that can step in and score. And, if the Jazz had just started Colin Sexton and designed an offense a little bit around his skills, Colin would average over 20 points a game. And you may not, just from a stat sheet, see a huge difference in some areas between he and Keontae George. It's really telling that Keontae's 22 years old and has evolved so quickly that he might be the Jazz's best player. He's not the most unique because there are high-scoring guards around the NBA, but where he's headed might be the most important development for the Jazz this season, even more so than Lowry kind of lining up to be an all-star again this season.
Yeah, important is pretty subjective. Like, what does that mean? I could argue that Ace Bailey is more important.
Absolutely.
But with Keontae's breakout and emergence this year, certainly that needs to continue, and this can't just be a one-year wonder kind of thing. But, I mean, you're talking about a guy who, before this season, it was looking like he didn't have a spot on the future of this Jazz
There's
team.
a real question if he's an NBA player.
Yeah, and he has certainly played into that and exceeded expectations in basically every realm. And you've got national people talking about, Keontae George is probably the most improved player in the NBA this season. And, that award doesn't really mean anything. But looking at Keontae's stats and what he's done, and you've been comparing him to Donovan Mitchell in his third year, and that is a big deal. So certainly you would hope that is something that can be sustained.
Last 9 games now for Keontae George. 30.8 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, shooting 45% from 3. He's shooting 49% from the floor. Remember, he just could not hit the broadside of a barn. I mean, he would get red hot in 5 games a season, and those 5 games would buoy his pretty subpar shooting numbers. I mean, he would finish the year shooting 39% from the floor and 33 or 34% from 3, which are just not good for a guard. And even those, like I said, were brought up artificially somewhat by having an 8 of 11 3-point shooting game. He would do a lot of damage in 5 or 6 games a year and hit 40 of his 160 made threes on the season in 8 of the games as opposed to the other 70. And it made his numbers look probably even better than they were, and they did not look very good. Every night now, he just turns in huge performances. He had 15 points in the first quarter. I promise you he's at the top or number 2 on every team's scouting report. He was going up against Derek White last night, who's one of the 3 or 4 best defensive guards in the NBA, and it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's defending him. It doesn't matter what they try and throw at him, if they're blitzing him in the pick and roll, whatever it is. He's finding ways to get guys involved, and then when you do take something away, he gets everyone else involved. So he's still got a lot of room to grow. He's got to get better defensively, but he's going to get better, and I think that's what's maybe the most interesting part of this if you're a Jazz fan is like, he's only scratching the surface now. I don't think he's reaching it, and I think he's going to get a lot better. And the question is how much better, and can he be better than a player like Donovan Mitchell? Because Donovan was incredible. Donovan was really, really a high-level star for the Jazz, and I think there's a pathway for Keontae to get even better.
That's interesting that you bring that up because how much better did Donovan get kind of after that bubble year, right? How much better did
Donovan
he
averaged
get?
20 his first year in the NBA. Like, he averaged 30 last year with the Cavaliers. Maybe it was 2 years ago. So, like, he's certainly gotten better, but he started at a much higher spot.
Right.
He did, started at a much higher spot. So Keontae's evolution is much more dramatic, and I do wonder where it stops. where Donovan didn't have as much room to grow in general and was a little bit limited just because of some of his physical tools, even though he's an elite leaper. He's pretty small, and Keontae's bigger. So, no, I think you're right. I think that it's interesting that there might be actually a higher ceiling with Keontae George than Donovan Mitchell, and it's going to be fun to watch. His maturity is just off the charts. It's hard to relay how much of a different person he is day to day, talking to him, his preparation. I was asking him how his pregame routine has changed from his being in the NBA, his first year, to where he is now. He's the first player on the floor. I mean, he truly is. He's in the arena 3 hours before the game starts. His floor time, which is when you start your warm-up before the game, a lot of guys like to do it late so they stay fresh. His floor time is at 4:30. That's 2.5 hours before game time. Like, that's really early. That's a guy who's coming in to get treatment on his body, take care of himself, eat the right things to make sure he's able to perform the way he is right now, and it's going to make him a ton of money. It's going to pay off for him, but it's also going to pay off for the Jazz and fans who have been patiently waiting for him. But they do lose, and if you're a Jazz fan that's been rooting for them to hold on to their draft pick, last night's loss was probably a good one, and now 9 of their next 11 are on the road, including against the Clippers tomorrow night, 8:30 tip-off.
Number 3. Hockey Olympic rosters are beginning to be finalized. Canada just announced theirs. Can probably expect a Team USA announcement maybe today or tomorrow. Clayton Keller sounds like he is right there on the edge. If he doesn't end up being the last player selected, sounds like he will be like the first injury replacement. Yeah,
he is right there on the edge. And obviously he was the star of the international team that they had earlier this year in the what were those called? Not cup games, but in the games that they were playing. He was kind of the star and the captain.
The
World Championships. He was the captain of that team and played well. I kind of wonder if, because we've not seen a great, stellar Clayton Keller performance so far this season. And obviously the loss of his father was part of that, but some of this play was before any of that happened. I'm curious if this is weighing on him. I'm curious if some of this pressure is weighing on him. I thought early in the season, not having a contract weighed on Logan Cooley, and after he got it, he seemed like he had a real spike and played well, and then kind of came back to earth a little bit and then suffered the injury. These guys are human too, and they want to be rewarded. They want to be taken care of. I'm sure Clayton has wanted to play well to make the Olympic team because it means a lot, and this is going to be a good American team. Obviously, I hope he makes it. That would be extremely cool.
Yeah, I think it was pretty clear last year that he was pretty bugged that he was snubbed from the Four Nations face-off roster, and of course that got so much national attention. That was such a big deal. And it would have been really cool to see Clayton Keller on there. And you're right, he did follow that up with leading Team USA to a gold medal in the other tournament. But this was a dude last year who was pushing for 100 points in the season, and this year he's not even close to that pace. So something's up. Regardless if he makes it or not, hopefully he can find that consistency after this break, because I think the Mammoth obviously really need him.
Or he makes it, and he gets a little momentum after making it, gets his confidence back, and kind of has that pressure off his shoulders and helps the Mammoth, because they've fallen below 500 now. They need to get back to their winning ways. They will kick off a 3-game road trip in New York and New Jersey starting tomorrow. Some 1:30 games, right? Or 1 o'clock games, early afternoon games. Kind of fun. So if you're hanging out and you're not at work tomorrow, a chance to tune in and watch some Mammoth games. All right, when we come back, we'll let you hear from Morgan Scalley. He had his kind of first real press conference discussing the Vegas Bowl. Stick around. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Utes taking on Nebraska coming up today at 1:30. You'll be able to hear that game right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. But let's let you hear from Morgan Scalley in his introductory press conference yesterday, kind of previewing the game and his thoughts on being the head coach of Utah.
I'm new to this. Apologize if any mistakes. I'm just grateful to be here. Fired up for the University of Utah, to be back in a bowl game after last season, and what a season it's been. Grateful for our coaching staff. Want to first recognize Kyle Whittingham, the legend at University of Utah, and what he's done for this program, what he's done for me personally and my career, and I am so happy for him and wish him nothing but the best. He has been an incredible mentor to me, and I'm excited to see what he does at Michigan. But about this bowl, about this opportunity and this team, This is my 6th Las Vegas Bowl. I played in one, and now this will be 5 that I've coached in. The first one was against Pete Carroll at USC. That's the one I played in. And Troy Polamalu had, I think, 15 solo tackles. Unbelievable. We were able to win that one. And so this has been an amazing experience. Las Vegas has always been great to us. And John Cicenti has been amazing. And the bowl committee. Kent Gardner from SRS Distribution have made the events special for our players. The gifts that they get, it's incredible, the gifts that they get. I got, I think, a Sega something that was, I think that's the last game I've played, boys, was a Sega. Okay, the controller is completely different. But what an amazing opponent. I've known Matt Rule and respected him from his time at Baylor, moving on to the NFL, and just a very well-respected leader in this profession. And you can tell the way their team plays ball, it's going to be a physical matchup. And I was made aware that we were 0-4 by the Nebraska media. They let me know that. So it's like, all right, that's the challenge. That's the gauntlet's been set down. So we're excited for this moment. I'm excited for our players. Devin, the leader that he's been coming in just one season, and he is, the catalyst, right, for what we've been able to do. Him and our offensive coordinator, Jason Beck, defensively, and proud of Lander and the seniors. We've got about 13, 14 seniors still going to be playing in this game, and we want to send them out the right way. So grateful to be here, and thank you so much.
All right, we'll come back to the Nebraska players. Sayer, are you with your experiences this week, what stood out most for you and your teammates?
Yeah, first I'd like to just say how thankful I am and grateful to have this opportunity. It's been really awesome just this whole entire week, getting to spend with my teammates, my family, my brothers. I'd say for me, I think that...
All right, there he was, Morgan Scalley. You kind of get a sense of Morgan's energy. He's a little... I want to say all over the place. And look, it's a bowl game. It's supposed to be a little bit silly. And he's talking about the bowl gifts and getting a Sega Genesis or whatever he was that he got. But you do certainly see a different approach. I will be curious how he settles in. It's going to be different than Witt, but he will settle in. He's not always going to be, I don't want to say high-strung, but kind of that energetic. It'll be curious to see him develop his rhythm as when speaking to the media, because that's going to change. Now, he's always had that energy, but he will go to kind of his traditional, he'll get to his go-tos, which every coach does, and that's why they call it coach speech. He'll get to that, coach speak. He'll get to that, and we'll see what he ends up sounding like.
Yeah, he's got a lot going on right now.
He does.
The last 2 weeks have been an absolute mess. Even when the team got down to Vegas, Kyle Whittingham was still with the team. So even just the past, I guess, few days, week, have just been an absolute whirlwind for Morgan Scalley, and he was not expecting to have to be the head coach for this game.
And if, you believe some of the rumors that are out there, he may have thought he was going to go be a coordinator at another school. Maybe he was going to follow Kalani to Penn State. There were those rumors are out there. Maybe he thought that's what his life was going to look like, and then 3 weeks later, he's the head coach at Utah going into the Vegas Bowl. So, yeah, this has probably been the most insane month of his life, I would imagine. And ended up with his dream job, but you kind of never know how you get there. And that's where he is today and gets to make his debut against Nebraska. Again, you'll hear that game right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, coming up at 1:30. All right, we will preview this game with a Nebraska beat writer coming up next. Evan Bland is going to join us. Stick around. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.